First language as a baby is movement. Of course it is. It's all we can do, right?
Is this real awakening? And some people may feel that they're breaking down, experiencing that things are going wrong for them, or feel overwhelmed at the moment, especially like the empaths. You know, there's a lot of empaths on the planet that, you know, we're all born as empaths to a certain degree.
Nadi originates from the word nad, which is about movement and flow. And the more we breathe in and we bring the breath down into the body, we're activating the channels that run through the body, and they align. They're called nadis, right? And they align the chakra system.
Okay, so this conversation today is with Helen Ford, and it was all about Helen's a really close friend of mine and a colleague, and something came up, and I was having a conversation with her, and she came up with this awakening self. Is that right? Awakening self, awakening to self. There was something we said.
Awakening to self and the process that people are going through right now. We were talking about calling things, whether it was a spiritual awakening or whether it was just an awakening of self, an awakening to the world that we live in.
Oh my God. Right? Yes. All of that above. I was so excited because I hate calling it spiritual awakening, because some people who, you know, because I'm not religious, I'm aware of lots of different religions, but I'm aware of like the energy self. And that is so important. And I've just noticed my hands all over the place. But so energy self. And I think that's the most important thing, like working with clients and students and stuff. This is the biggest thing that's happening. I mean, it's been happening for a number of years now, but the majority of the planet are really waking up. And sometimes, you know, we don't know what that actually means, and you know, and what's going on in the planet and stuff, and how we can be affected. Thank you. Sorry, they just come in. So they were just saying, they were just saying the sensory self, and you know, as we know, the human body is that the sensory system, a physical container, vessel, and the soul comes in. Thinking, they said, and guidelines as in having a knowledge or understanding of what signs and symptoms they said that you might be receiving. Okay, let's explain, because they're speaking really fast. I'm like, come on, guys, slow down. They always do, right? They always do. So the awakening to self is very much about sort of tuning in to what messages or signs or what our body's going through. And this is really important. It's like the mind, you know, both of us are therapists and you know, counselors and stuff, and we do the cognitive hypnotherapy and okay, fine. And you do a lot of other modalities. Mm-hmm. So can you give us an idea of the modalities that you use in your work? Because this is going to be important, because I said mind, body and soul. And so let's have a little listen to like what you do with your clients, what do you specialize in, sort of thing.
So I always find it really hard to quantify things, and to, you know, people like labels, they like to understand. And so currently I've got myself labeled as a somatic and subconscious coach, because I started working with the mind, started with hypnotherapy and NLP and all the wonders that brings, and I still work very closely with that. And that's updating software of the mind in the most gentle way, obviously, as you know, people that have been through past traumas or you know, various other things. And as my work's progressed, I've dropped more into the body, and that's involved studying somatic coaching. I've just done 200 hours embodied yoga, and the link, you know, they're both equally as important, as we know. Our first language as a baby is movement. Of course it is. It's all we can do, right? Most of us in society, we're very in our heads, because, you know, we've created this life that we have to live, not us per se, but, you know, we have this structured environment we're meant to live in. And it's just to drop into the body is where the wisdom is.
Oh my God, I absolutely love this. I absolutely love this, because it's the sensory self, as they were just saying, as I just came in. It's the sensory self of how we're interpreting the world around us. And this is one of the things I was really excited about, because we was having a general conversation as friends, as we do, we talk regularly. And there was something that you had said, and I was something about a heart center. And I was talking about, the work that I do with my students, looking at energy and how it affects our lives. Some of the students, they sign up to do the psychic mediumship with me, but it's also about them learning to find out more about themselves. So, there's a new course I'm doing, like a discovery of psychic self, and that includes as being an empath or being very intuitive or whatever. And thinking, they just said, you all start off as that intuitive psychic self, but they sort of, over the years, depending on the lifestyle that you live, the upbringing that you have, that if anything, it's like sort of brainwashed out of you, so you don't remain that intuitive self. It's like things change for you. You start listening to or being dictated to how you should think and you should feel and you should see. But that thinking, like you said, but with babies, when they come in, they're bringing in that intuition, that psychic self, very empathic, and it depends on their childhood, and what happens to them depends on how they continue with that. Thank you. They said, so it's a bit like how, thank you. They said about how people are receiving transmission. They said about their transmissions, how people receive transmissions. Okay, fine, thank you. Let's go back to something, because they said, because they've given me notes. I'm like, okay, fine. I've got notes on this board in front of me. Because I think the biggest thing that, as I said, that's happening on the planet right now, and it's been going for some time, is this real awakening. And some people may feel that they're breaking down, or life is really changing beyond what they ever imagined it to change, in the sense of things they think that they may feel experiencing, that things are going wrong for them, or feel overwhelmed at the moment, especially like the empaths. There's a lot of empaths on the planet that, we're all born as empaths to a certain degree, and then depending on lifestyle and stuff. But a lot of empaths are going to be really absorbing it. They're like sponges. They're absorbing their environment. They're picking up from their friends, colleagues around them and stuff. So, and thank you, they just said, and so this is giving me an image like a filter, like if you have a machine, it has a filter to filter out the dust. It becomes clogged. So I'm wondering, if people out there that are listening, there might be the empaths, there might be the intuitives or psychics or whatever. It might just be regular people that just have no idea that they have these gifts, that they're born with these gifts and they can use it in their daily life. But if I look at, and if I say to you, like, what would be some symptoms of if people are, a bit clogged up, their filter is a bit full, they just said, because the work that you do, and I know I've said this before, breath work, you say, no, but I'm not trained in breath work, but you do somatic stuff and all the other stuff you do. There was something you said about, I don't think this was a client that held their breath, or something about the breathing, or their bodies holding things. I mean, so if someone's listening to this, how do they know that, that they are more than what they just see on the outside, that they're not just the biological part or what they see in the mirror? I mean, how would their body be receiving the information? How do they know that there may be something going on?
I mean, I think a lot of us as humans, because of the world we live in, like tend to breathe up here, which is obviously not where we're meant to breathe, right? And I read something this morning, actually, I can't quite paraphrase what it was, but it was more or less that, we've talked about this a lot in the past, but this need for self-care and all of what comes with that, to basically almost stay balanced as a human. But of course, the need for self-care has been really perpetuated by the fact that we live in this 3D world that doesn't necessarily support us as humans, right? So it's like, yes, we need the self-care, but it's like, do we not just need a different way of living? I mean, it's kind of a bigger perspective. And I think, again, when we're born, there's another quote, and I can't again think what it is. I'm being really helpful today, but that like we come in as absolutely perfect, and we are absolutely perfect. We're all divine beings, but it's like, who are you before you got told who you were supposed to be? So we get to a certain age and we're the wife, we're the husband, we're the daughter, we're the whatever, right? And then all these things to everybody. And then we're doing the jobs and we're doing the childcare and we're doing the shopping. And I mean, it just goes on. And so we just get overwhelmed. And we can push on through that until we can't anymore. And so there's often those moments where we stop and go, there must be more to life, or this doesn't feel right, and I don't know quite why that is. Yeah.
I love that because when it's the thing is, when we start getting to the stage, it's that our body's really feeling this, and then we end up getting ailments or we get unwell. I know that
Mm.
happened for many years. I was always unwell, and I was like, what is going on? I mean, it
Right.
literally took me to have a car smash into my body or a van to knock me down. So I died for 7 minutes for me to wake up and go, okay, yeah, there is an issue. But we don't
Mm.
want that for everybody. Okay, not
No,
everybody
not
needs to go
really,
through that
not
at
at
all.
all.
That's really important. But there was something you were saying, and it's true, it's about the labels we are given. And it's
Mm.
like us fitting into the labels or the category that we think how it should be. I know as a parent, a
Yeah.
mother, and blah blah blah, and everything else. But there was something that when you were speaking, I had these guys in my ears, and they were turning around and said, "Yeah, well, imagine if that's not your true self. Of course, it's not your true self.
Of
Imagine
course.
that if you're the people pleaser that you've been trying to please people for
Hmm.
ages." And you become that label, and then you're thank you. They said doing I thought it said dishonest. I went no disservice, and I had to
Service,
correct.
yeah.
Okay, and it's a disservice to yourself, to your soul self, like why your
Mm.
soul was here in the first place. Because your soul journey in this lifetime could be needing to learn A, B, and C, but because you're not being your authentic self, and because you're fitting in with everybody else's requirements, not your own, that
Mhm.
you're not actually fulfilling what you should be here for. And it's always what you should be fulfilling is your own purpose, your own mission, it's your own soul progress sort of thing. But then, we get so entangled in that everyday life, like as you were saying, 3D world. And thank you, they just said to me, because it's all encompassing, it's like 360 degree of there's always something coming from every direction, especially now, with social media and everything else. It's like, how people, thank you, they said engaging with what's going on around them. So it can create a lot. Thank you, they just said this. They said, okay, we're also thinking of this lifetime. And these guys, this is not where I was going today, but thanks. But it's also
I'm
always,
not saying a word.
but it's also the past life stuff as well. It's like we get
Mhm.
entangled with the past life stuff, and it's no different. And I was just talking to somebody else on another interview that our past life stuff, our physical sensory being, like with the work that you do, we are experiencing the world through our mind and our senses and everything else, and it stays in physically within us. So it's not just this lifetime. So it can be happening in
Correct.
past lives. I've seen it with many of my clients where they've come to me for a session, and it's like literally like there's something that's come up, like, oh, hang on, let me check in, and these guys are saying to me, no, it's a past life. So I have to go back to the past life and go, this is why this is going on, because you haven't fulfilled it, you haven't gone through it. And this is, like yourself, it's brilliant that you're here to help. They said it's about time too. So sorry.
Rude.
We've been
But also we have
back.
but also the past life as well. We can hold the samskaras of a past life within our body,
Yes.
right? So we come in, and I really feel that right now part of people awakening to themselves is them finally tuning in to what is innately true for them, and that is found within the body. It's not found up here. And the
Mhm.
amount of times I'm working with a client, and you can hear in the language, I mean, you know this from what you've studied as well. Well, I think, and it's like, but what do you feel? And,
Yes.
the thing with us as humans is that a lot of people have become disconnected from the body. So everything happens up here. It's all like chat, 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 busy, busy, busy. Got to keep going, got to keep going. And then, but the wisdom is here. But also, it doesn't often feel safe for people to reconnect with their bodies, which sounds such a crazy thing, right? Because we just think, oh, we're humans, we've got a body, off we go, we do everything, we do all the things, we can do it. But are you really connected to you? And do you trust what is present at any given time? And, you know, when you're with your body and when you're connected to what's going on within, which often can start with the breath, right? Because it's the biggest anchor
Mm.
home, it's the biggest anchor
Yeah.
back to ourselves.
Yeah.
At that point, you are here very much in the present moment. And
Yes.
that's all we have. All we
Oh
have
my,
is now.
oh my God, I love this. When you were talking, they said, yes, when we disconnect, what happens is we're then only going through the brain that is then interpreting the information from the previous experience that you've experienced in your
Hmm.
lifetime. And those experiences have been up until the age of 7 scientifically, that
Yeah.
a brain cannot, make the decisions on its own. A child has to have the parents' input to say you can do this, you can't do this, all their beliefs and everything else. So
Mm.
imagine if we then continue with that same, this like outdated information that we picked up from those caregivers around us that we take into our 20s, our 30s, our 40s, our 50s and 60s and so on. I mean, I've had clients at the age of 90 that still, one lady, she literally divorced her husband at 90 and she's gone on a worldwide cruise. And the last time I heard, she's actually enjoying
Fabulous.
herself. Yeah, because she realized actually, no, she does have the right to live the life that she wants to live. She doesn't have to be there doing what she's
Mm.
doing. And what you were saying, and then they were saying to me in my ear again that when you were saying something, you were saying something, and they said, actually, it's right. The body will show up signs and symptoms that if the mind is well, they're saying unhealthy. I wouldn't say that, but I have to say unhealthy in the
Busy.
sense of it's busy, 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 busy. Yes, okay, thank you. You said busy, they said unhealthy. Again, there's
Okay.
some no, no, it's not that they're correcting you, but you are
No, I
correct.
know. I wasn't
And
being corrected.
yeah, Anne feels that you're correct. They're saying unhealthy, but they're
Mm.
sort of saying that because thank you. They said, but because humans are living in a toxic environment, and this is why your soul is here. You're living in toxic environments with lots of information being bombarded in there, and so it's
Yeah.
about us deciphering actually what is right for us. So again, it's like it's coming outside of our heads
Yeah.
and tuning into us on a soul level of what's happening. So that's why I love the work that you do. I mean, and as you rightly said, they just said, thank you. They're now agreeing with you that the awakening is in the breath, and you're absolutely spot on.
Mm.
This is what this conversation's about. This is what this is
Yeah.
about. It's about I train as a mindfulness practitioner. I would say to some of my clients, by being mindful, by being present in the moment, you're feeding yourself with information and that reinventing yourselves all the time. It's meant to happen. So, sometimes when the body breaks down or mental health or situation happens, it's just literally, thank you, it's literally giving yourself time to sit with it. Like there's people with a lot of illnesses or something. I know through my own self that actually takes you out for a while, that you're forced to sit down. And I
Yes.
know somebody at the moment, they've got cancer, they're going through treatment, and she still keeps on going. And I'm like, this was so to stop you at the moment so that you could actually, process the information where you're at on your journey so that, as you move forward, but she's not listening. And so sometimes we need to let our bodies heal and for us to then go through it and us to have that awakening and go, right, life has got to change now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and 100% agree with you. But of course, we've been programmed to be in that space of, but you've just got to keep going. You've just got to plow on through. You've got to push on through. And I had this exact conversation with my mother. I mean, I always quote her when we have these conversations, and she wouldn't mind at all. In fact, I'll
Bless
probably
her.
send you the recording. But she has studied astrology, and we spoke a couple of weeks back now, and she was all sixes and sevens, and she was feeling a little bit under the weather. And she said, "Oh, I've got these two big transits going through, and I can literally feel them." Or her words were, "I can literally feel the energies in my body, and they're both kind of at war with each other." And I said, "Oh, right, okay, this is interesting terminology." And she said, "But it's nearly 5 o'clock. I'll go out to the garden because that's what I do." And I said, "Well, what if you didn't go out into the garden?" And she said, "Well, I'll try. I'll see if it makes me feel better." And I said, "Listen to your language." I said, "Just for a minute, just be curious as to what your body wants to do. What does your body want to do?" And I wasn't sure she'd answer. And she went, "Oh, it wants to rest."
Oh
And
my,
I was like, and that's where the wisdom is. Because if you listen to that, whatever is lurking under the surface in terms of, she was feeling under the weather, if she pushed on through and gone out to the garden and done all the things she normally does, she probably would have been laid up the next day, not feeling better. But we have to grant ourselves these permissions to hear what's coming through. And that in itself is a practice because we are so disconnected from doing that as the norm.
yeah, and as you were speaking, it was I've taken a couple of weeks out, sort of having bits of breaks and stuff like that, and I've learned that it's reconnected me back to my joy. And I was told, I was sitting
Mm.
in conversation with my guys. I was like, what's going on? And they went, actually, you were feeling tired and you weren't listening. And you said you wanted to have some peace for a little while. And so, we decided that we just put a stop. And I was like, wow. And I was like, what's going on? And then suddenly everything's sort of action, go, go, go at the moment. I'm like, yeah, no, I know it because I'm ready for this. And the piece of information that my guy said to me, which was, golden nugget, was only do what you have joy for, because you're living your life. So it's not about that you think that you have to do this and you have to do that. So however you work, I'm like yourself, we're self-employed and we manage our own time. It's funny because they just said like managing energy. This is the conversation today. But it's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
but by managing ourselves, it's like looking at what we want to do. And they said we are meant to be here experiencing life and joyful life to some degree. Yes, when life isn't always going tickety-boo and the joy, and there's some of those hiccups in life, it's only to redivert us into a different direction. Sorry, because they've given me a couple of words at the same time there. Redirection,
Is that?
and so take a seat back and to listen to what we want to do moving forward. So, thank you. They said looking at managing our energy, there was something you said, sort of managing our energy is really important, and like the work that you do, they've just given me an image now. I'm like, okay, what are you showing me? So they've shown me the chakra system, and I'm like, okay. And they were talking about the wheel of energy, the energy of life in your body. So energy coming in, and sort of we're in receivership, and we are transmitting out our energy as well. So thank you. They said so
Mm.
it's about being accountable for what we are sending out and what we are receiving back as well. But you can't
Yes,
do that from a place if you're in your head, because
correct.
it's not your true self. Oh my gosh, I love this. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's what this was partly what my yoga assessment, if you like, was for at the weekend, which was breathing in. And the more we breathe in and we bring the breath down into the body, we're activating the channels that run through the body, and they align. They're called nadis, right? And they align. I'll probably get this slightly wrong, but they align with the chakra system. And the word nadi originates from the word nad, which is about movement and flow. So as we breathe, we're already generating that movement and flow. But if we move our bodies, however, even if it's just very subtle, we're moving that energy and that life force through our systems. And of course, what are most of us told to do from the age of whatever it is, 18?
Sit
Must
still.
sit at a desk and you must earn money and you must pay into the system. So your body's not moving, you're barely breathing. There's no expansion there. There's none of this going on. And so how do we find the space in every day, just, as best we can, so that we can, I don't know, just free ourselves a little bit,
Yeah, no,
create a bit of expansion.
that makes so much sense. And thinking, they just sort of said to me, and I didn't know, they're talking about the acupuncture points, and that's the Nadi system and what
Right.
you're saying, the energy flow. So that makes sense. They've just saying that to me. And they're saying to that me at the moment, there's going to be a lot of that on this planet where people may be forced to be out of work or forced to do something. So they're going to have, some people are going to have that more of that time to look at this. Or thank you. They said okay, what they show me, okay, certain parts of the world, okay, they're sort of showing me where there's going to be major shifts, that people may lose their job, or they may need to take time out, or they're forced to take the time to sort of look at their life. But instead of going into their head in worry mode, it's about, okay, use this opportunity, see it as an opportunity, that it's about discovering what they want as they move forward now. So it's about being in the body, not in the head, not in the mind. Okay, fine, thank you. And when we said
Yeah.
about the chakra systems, it's the layer of energies that we are, as we are a magnet, we're sending out. And it's interesting because it was someone asked me to put a manifestation course out on my website. And I said, it's not good enough for me just to create a manifestation workshop, because there's no good just writing it down or creating a manifestation mood board, whatever. We've got to feel it and breathe it. And this is part of this. This is the whole part of it, that we've got to look at, that it's more than just creating a wish list. It's about, we've got to really fully embody it, and we've got to be aware of it. And they were saying through the work that you do, you're reconnecting people back to their bodies, so that then it's like a clean slate, it's a clean filter, so that they can start moving forward. So this seems to be really important, what they were sort of saying. So I'm wondering, you know, having clients come into you, like the various modalities that you've worked with, have you seen this where people have, stuff that's gone on for them in their life, and you've had a client that's come to you and you've helped them to move out of that? Is there an example that you can give to us so that somebody's listening might go, oh God, that's me, or yeah, I know that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yes, it does. I'm just trying to think of an example that wouldn't, go against anyone's confidences really. But I think really some of the biggest realizations are quite generic. And I think, what do I mean by that? In my experience, somebody just reconnecting with themselves through themselves moves so much already, because at the point somebody comes to see me, they've often lost connection with maybe what they would consider their intuition or their inner knowing, or they've got up into their heads a lot more through work or whatever it might be, life stress, and so just that moment of gently having a conversation with the body I've witnessed it with a client I saw recently. I mean, she messaged me when she left and she was like, it has been years since I felt that, years. And her body, because I was guiding her body was literally speaking the wisdom that was present. And it was coming through in colours and shapes and messages. And a lot of it was just, and again, everybody's different. And a lot of it was just words. And I was just literally scribbling the words down. And I was able to send her the words afterwards, and she was just like, oh wow, that's amazing. And then she kind of pieced them together, because none of this is my job to piece people's lives together. This is all information, and even that story, I'm just concerned, is a little bit too much information. Just trying to think if there's another one I can.
We don't know this person, because from the information
No,
you just said, I wouldn't know this person.
yeah.
Don't worry.
Yeah, so I think it's very much it can be quite, I think, what's what I want, awe-inspiring for people to go, wow, I wasn't expecting that as an answer. Wow, I wasn't expecting my attention to be drawn to that within my body. And from whatever is present, then there is a way of, moving through it, because the body answers. And it sounds completely almost nuts in what I'm saying, but the body knows, and the body knows before the mind. And of course, we're not taught that. We're told, no, the answer's up here. The answer's up here. Of course, yeah, not to diss the mind. The mind has got a very, very big job, but the answers aren't there.
This is what I love, because what you're enabling clients to do is to embody their emotions, their feelings, and what's going on, and also some of the thoughts as well that's going on. But it's as you rightfully said, they said that it's not the mind that should be dictating to us. The mind is there to process the information for us to understand it, so that they can drop load it into the body. We need the mind in the sense of, if there is a sense of fear, that fight, flee, or freeze, or whatever.
Yeah.
But what we've done is we've given it they're using the word governance, that we've given it
100%.
governance over us. Yeah. And they said this is what thank you, this is what this is, you make it become a leader of you instead of you working hand in hand with it, whatever. So by you saying you handing it back over to the soul wisdom, which is the soul wisdom from many lifetimes, reincarnations, past lives, and everything else, that's sort of the energy sort of thing from my side of view as well, is that literally when we hand it over to our physical body, because I know I do this with some of my students, where I say to them, and I've been doing this for years now, because I've got quite a few allergies now over the years, and I might feel into certain foods as I'm at the supermarket, and I have the grocery store, I have some food in my hand, like, shall I have this, shall I have that? And it's like, it feels into it, like, well, why shouldn't I eat that? And then I look at the product, the ingredients, or whatever it is, and like, oh, okay, thank you. So it's like listening to my gut feeling. It's that intuition. It's reinstalling using your intuition, isn't it? Your gut feeling.
Right, and that word, like, it's like in, and then tuition. So it's your own internal tuition, basically.
God, Helen, I
love that. I know, and it's so simple, really, but it's your inner tuition. It's what you know to be true. But of course, again, it can get quite squashed, and for it to be reignited is again a practice.
But we
Of,
gave up our sovereignty. We gave it up. That's what it is. So
mhm,
we've been programmed in a sense of to hand it over to somebody else to tell us what's wrong with us. Doctors,
100%, of course.
politicians, parents, teachers, whatever it is, authority figures. And now this is not anti-authority figures. It's not what it is.
Mm,
But we gave up too much sovereignty to them to tell us how we should be thinking and feeling. Whereas now
100%.
we're on this big awakening in the sense of this wave of information that's coming in now that's to bring it back to ourselves. A bit like what we would do back in the day, tribal, small communities. And we're heading that way
Absolutely.
right now, because
100%.
it's reconnecting with others that think and
Yeah.
feel similar to ourselves. And,
Yeah.
you're going to magnetize the energy of those individuals when, it's their health check, it's that internal checkup on ourselves. You're going to attract more of that energy in. I say this to some of my students, like, however you're feeling, you're going to see it in your outside world. So if you've had a real bad day, then it's something that's going on internally within you because you've attracted it in. So
Absolutely.
you've got to look at that. I absolutely love that. So if we look at, okay, so how can, because, okay, thank you. Like, I was going to move on to the next bit, like, no, wait. So, because I have also a lot of people that come to me and sort of say, well, it must be a past life. And I'm looking and I'm digging into it. I'm like, okay, we look at the past life, we look at it, and they sit there and think, that's it, it's resolved then by just thinking it
Yeah.
must be this. I've looked at my past life, but they have to do the work. And thank you. Some people can be very lazy. They just said, this is so rude. They can be so lazy. So lazy.
Well, and again, also don't forget that however much I am a big fan of all the things, astrology, human design, all of it, and I've worked with a lot of it myself personally, again, sometimes it could be perceived as an external thing to hold on to rather than actually listening to what is
Yes.
really present for you now.
Yeah.
Not like, oh, but it's because of, this going on or that going on, or, I mean, obviously there's a lot going on all the time, but it's like, don't give away your power to
Yeah.
every little
Yeah,
thing.
because my star sign says I'm like this, and because the Pluto or I'm not astrologist,
Yeah, yeah,
this is going on, or this is my number, that means I'm supposed to be receiving, master number. It means I'm supposed to be having a crap life. But no, it's
absolutely. Yes, exactly. All of that. Yeah,
22 to 11 to 33, God knows what else. And it's like, yeah, I'm meant to be having these things happen to me. But it's like what I do with them.
of
That's
course
the
it
thing.
is.
Yeah,
It's just information.
it's just information and what we do with the information, and this is where we're at with this. It's important. um Thank you. The other thing they were just sort of saying to me, if I have something to say about how to connect from my modality energy wise, I try to say to them, be very mindful of your environment. I mean, oh my God, what a difference. I've moved to the countryside. I hear birds singing in the morning waking me
Right.
up. I feel like, what is it, is it Sleeping Beauty where she's got the seven dwarfs, or
Snow
what?
White. Snow White. I
Snow
know
White.
that because it's a personal favourite. Yeah.
It's Snow White. So I can resonate with Snow White in the morning when I hear these little sparrows that are flying by my window in the morning. Very different from the Chinook helicopters that I had living in
Oh my
London.
God.
You know,
Absolutely.
my energy was like, "Ah," and then now
Yeah.
it's just like, oh, I'm like harmonizing with my energy. So I say that to my students and
Mm.
clients, harmonize with your environment. I'm sure you must find this yourself because I know you live by the sea,
Oh my
and
gosh.
like some of your clients as well, that where they may be.
Yeah. I mean, yesterday was quite funny because obviously it can get very dark, cold, and windy here at the seaside in the winter. And I got in my car yesterday to, as standard, drive down to the bit of beach I like. I thought, what the hell am I doing? The sun's out. Get on your bike. So I got on my bike, bit of exercise, was out in nature. It was just absolutely beautiful. But yeah, so
But that's
it
important,
makes a
isn't it? Because it's your
difference.
sensory self. When I say sensory self, I love it because these guys call it sensory self. They show me a sponge. So it's like
Mm,
literally we are sponges absorbing our environments, the people around us, the food that we're
mm.
eating, how we are feeling, if we like the sunshine and it's not. I know there's some people like my sister loves it when it's dark and rainy. I mean, I just don't understand that. But it's like I love to be
Each
out
to
in the
their
sunshine.
own.
I know, right? And that's all good. I'm like a solar panel. I need the sunshine to make me feel recharged. But so
Mm.
it makes so much sense. So say for instance, because this is one of the things they get saying to me, it's like, what can people do then, apart from coming to see you, which of course they should all come in to see you. I'm going to have a look at that, how they contact you. But what tip would you give them sort of to reconnect themselves or to help them in this process or to identify there might be something going on for them? Because I know there's a lot of, people who are very empathic, who are empathic or intuitive, or people that are, I'd say, coming online or even if they're not coming online, sort of really awoken to the fact there's something not quite right at the moment, how they might be feeling. You know, when there's something that doesn't feel quite right, what could they take away from you today that you could give them, like a tip or something for them to tune into or connect with, that will help them? Sort of just one little daily sort of ritual they could do which might help.
Yeah, I think I feel like there were about 50 questions in that one question.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
What's
I
them
think,
all?
yeah, I know. I won't remember them by the time I get to the end. I do think you were asking about how people would know if
Yes.
they're maybe if they're awakening to themselves, or it's often just the contrast of that, like life just isn't feeling comfortable, life isn't feeling right, and then maybe you're overeating, you're drinking too much, you're always busy, and you're always exhausted, but that there's an undercurrent there of like there must be more to life. That often is kind of how it starts, quite gently, but like then it's like, oh, but I don't want to look at that, so I just keep up with the busyness. But you'll just keep getting the little tap, it will just keep tapping until one day you go, oh, okay, something's got to give, because that's often like first sign. And of course, other signs are more from an intuitive point of view, where you just have a kind of knowing, or you suddenly start noticing the world differently, or it's like there must be other ways to live, and then you just might start exploring things. Yeah, so that would be, I guess, an answer to that question. I had a really interesting conversation with somebody a while back now, actually, and she said that she was very new to mindfulness as a concept. And she said the one thing that really made her aware of how much she was in her head was getting herself into the sea in the cold weather. Because
Wow.
she said the minute she got into the sea, or
Yeah.
in a big water space, all she could do at that point, and this is, I just think, a metaphor for life, all she could do at that point was think about her body and her breathing. Because if she didn't regulate her breathing and listen and feel and do, she had no time to be thinking about anything. She just said, I couldn't think about a thing, I just had to focus on my breathing. Now, it's a bit much for me to say to people, look, you know what? This is a daily practice. Get yourself out in the water if you want to stop thinking. I have recommended it to people who I do know are sea swimmers. If you want to give your brain a break, get yourself in the water. But perhaps a less shocking moment would literally be to carve out a few moments in your day, even before the day starts. I'm a big fan of that. And just to breathe deeper. And again, a lot of people are like, I haven't got time for that. And, what's the point? And again, it's a practice. It's an absolute practice. And interestingly, bringing my mum back into the conversation, who has never really been into breath work of any description ever. And again, this is a sort of, for me, it's a slight ancestral, sort of gone down the pipe, shall we
Yeah.
say, since I've been studying recently. She said, I found myself laying on my bed at night and just taking in some really big, deep breaths. And I said, oh, that's interesting. How did it make you feel? And she said, it's really nice and calming. Came out of nowhere, literally stage left. Don't know where that came from. So yeah, taking some deep breaths, being in nature, and just being present for a few moments of your day. And to be present, sit somewhere nice, spot 5 things around you that you can see, 5 things around you can hear, smell, whatever. Just be in this moment now, because this moment now is where all the wisdom is. It's not at 5 p.m. tonight. It's not like, what am I going to have for dinner? And that, again, it's all a practice, because our brains are always on the next thing.
I absolutely love that. And I'm sitting here, I can hear them
Thinking about dinner.
tapping me on my shoulder. And I'm like, okay, I can hear it. Because it's like 2009, my lung collapsed. And I was like, well, why did he? And it still didn't work out why that happened. That was my near-death experience, my second one. I was like, what happened? And they said, see, can you hear what Helen's saying to you about breath work? And I was like, now I get it. I knew the connection to a past life. And I was like, oh my God, I understand. It was about me coming back into my breath, because I was in that toxic relationship. I was so in my head, how do I get out of this? Issues about money. What was I going to do? I had no money, no job, and I had 2 children to bring up, and blah, blah, blah. The whole old story The
Yeah.
ancestral stuff, you were saying, the lineage of my family, all the women were in toxic, dysfunctional relationships, husbands controlling with money. And I was replaying, it's the ancestral line stuff, I tell you, I can't make it up. And it was
Yeah.
replayed. And so they just literally, I love it how they're still tapping me on my shoulder. And yeah, okay, I know.
And of course, lungs are very linked. I think it's maybe Chinese medicine, but they're very linked to grief as well.
Mm.
So yeah, it's not a surprise that there was a little
Yeah.
collapse there for you.
Yeah,
But
well, that
yeah.
makes so much sense. I the grieving of losing myself in that relationship and not
Mhm.
knowing myself, and I feel like through the work that you do as well, is that we're helping individuals to reconnect to themselves and to discover themselves and to help them on their way. We're just giving them tips and practical tools to use, aren't we? So
It's it's a real it's a real moment in time of reclamation of the self, I feel. But I don't mean that in a kind of selfish way, like I'm all right, Jack, I've got myself sorted. It's like how can you reclaim a bit like your sovereignty and what you were saying earlier? How can you reclaim all parts of yourself to be able to expand out and be in and support community? And it goes out, it goes out, it goes out, right?
ripple
So.
effect. You know, they keep
Mm.
saying to me, it's not selfishness. I always was told it's being selfish if you think of yourself. It's actually
Mm.
self-preservation. That's what it is. And you're right, when we can go in, it's about us really being our authentic selves. It's like living from that soul place of what really feels to be us. Because after all, the relationship we're having, the biggest relationship of all is with ourselves. And then,
Oh,
if we don't look at that, then we're coming back and doing this all over again. And I ain't got time to come back to do this again. I'm too busy. I ain't doing it. I do
something
this.
to say about business over here?
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
You're saying a word.
So,
Yeah.
Helen, if people wanted to reach you for your teachers, I know you were doing a daily ritual recently you put on your Instagram, but if they want to
Mm.
connect with you and learn more, and whether it's online or in person, where are your contact details? How do
Where
they
am
find?
I? Where am I?
Where am you?
Um,
Am you?
I am. Website is helenford.co.uk. Ford like the car, as I like to say. It's an easier way of saying it. And I'm on Instagram under Helen Ford Wellness. So there's always I've actually had some really lovely messages lately saying, "Oh, I watched one of your videos and I watched one of these," and so yeah, we sort of probably should put a little bit more on Instagram, but yeah, that's kind of doing its thing. So yeah, and there's booking online through my website, and also if you're local, I'm on the south coast in Folkestone. I have been doing a few walk and talk sessions, which have been lovely out in nature, and we know the power of the left and right and working the left and right brain hemisphere as we walk. So it kind of supports any sort of moving as well, clearing. So yeah,
And Folkestone's in the UK, but I know that,
correct.
Helen, you've joined me on some of the retreats before and we do them globally. So who knows, watch
Mm.
the space. Maybe there's something that we can do together sort of globally and show up. Now, my
Yeah.
guys were just laughing because they said, Helen, the interior designer, she really
Mm.
is the interior designer.
That's so funny.
Because
So
interior designer
smart.
around with furniture and homes and stuff like that, which you've done for many years, and they
Yeah.
laughed. I mean, honestly, I don't know who I've got in today, one of my guides, but not my regular lot. I can tell you that right now because I'm making that joke. But yes, and
Yeah.
she doesn't have time for that. But we've got some guide that's come in and just laughs at interior designer, so interior body, mind, soul, spirit, and everything else. Love that.
There we go. Yeah, interior, all sorts of interiors.
I know,
But
right? Love it.
yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah,
I've got
so and work online obviously as well, and actually have had really good success working online. And yeah, I'm not sure what's next, considering I've just done some more training. So really nice to do some retreats at some point and get the energy in the room, and yeah, get people moving into their bodies, but with a curiosity to see what's there, because that's all it is. It's just a dance with the self, really.
Well, it's going back to being a child again, isn't it? It's like learning to
Mm.
stop ourselves. This is what we do when we're children. It's like, imaginary
Mm.
friends. And again, I won't. They are real spirits coming to greet them and say hello to them.
Mm.
And parents and other people say, no, don't be silly. That doesn't really exist. But it's being a child again to explore the
Mm.
world in a light-hearted way. And I know through the body work that you do that this is what they do. They discover more about themselves. I mean, there's one thing that I think they just reminded me, like, okay, fine. When I had the mini stroke 2.5 years ago now, I've just started doing aquafit for the first time in years. I was doing roller skating, but I broke my
Oh,
wrist when I fell over. So
rumor.
I better not do that for a while. And both at the same time. And it was so hard washing my hair, I can tell you. It was so much pain. And I did it again. So like a cat with 9 lives, but I just don't know which life I'm on. Anyway, go back, Beza said. Okay, so yeah, so doing the aquafit by doing the movement, I use like the work that you do with movement. It's interesting because doing the aquafit now in the water, I'm moving and I'm starting to feel the difference in my left and right. And I didn't realize there was a difference in the left and right. And my right's really become quite dominant in taking over. But my
Yeah,
left hand side is like now I'm from the movement in the water is in my I can feel that it's reactivating new connections with my left and right. So it's really helping me. I didn't realize I was out of balance, but literally I mean, I'm walking okay. I don't mean that, but energetically as well in the body. By doing the aquafit and doing the exercises in the water because it's lighter on my body, that I'm feeling that there is a connection now, the neural pathways and everything else. And the energy's flowing totally different. So it is
yeah,
so important, as you say, from the
yeah,
work that you do, that movement,
yeah.
reconnecting, joining up the energy that the Nandis are like the energy's flowing through the whole body. It's so, so important. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, interestingly, I was years and years ago, I mean, I used to dance, I say dance loosely, but dance for fun, as a kind of
Mm.
younger person, did dance medals and all of that. But I was never really into any sort of fitness, and I've never really considered myself to be sort of into much sport. I wasn't ever sporty really at all, in fact. Um, but now I recognize just the benefits of being in the body, especially when 24/7 we're attached to the gadgets, and just having that hour. I say this to my client as well. What do you do for yourself and your body? And whether that's running or swimming or aquafit or whatever, it's just a little bit of something that works for you. Could be 20 minutes of dance in the kitchen whilst you're cooking dinner. Just something to get the energy moving and the body moving. And I think again, it drops us out of our head.
You're so right. There was something they just mentioned, and I didn't see this. It's like they say calorie deficit. So when I'm like, what do you mean? So when I'm listening to them, it's a bit like now I've started to say, well, I've just put a little bit of weight on, just because I've been enjoying the luxuries around here, and it's just too much. And it's like now, well, if I'm going to have that chocolate, I'm going to make sure it's dark chocolate and it's really high grade. And then there was
Yeah.
something else. It was like, well, if I'm going to have that, I'm going to make sure that, it's the best of the quality of what it is, whatever. And it's a
Mm.
bit like, like my phone, I think, going on Instagram stuff now. It's like, I literally go, well, unless it's feeding my soul and I'm getting some joy out of it, I'm not even going to waste my time doing it. So it's like, and, listening to the news or whatever it is, I'm not going to waste my time. So it's the
Yeah.
same thing like being on a diet in a way. It's like what we put into our bodies and stuff, what we're consuming, what we're listening to, because
Yeah.
sometimes we really do need that downtime for us to really be in ourselves. And if we're
Yeah.
constantly, I'm saying this, but I'm going to put this on Instagram
For
and
sure.
YouTube. It's the same thing. You've got to listen to a quantity rather than no
Yeah.
quality rather than quantity. It's a dyslexic in me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so you get it totally, and I love that, like from the work that you do with individuals, because I've seen it in action. I love it. Well, Helen, is there anything else you'd like to mention before we leave today? Is there anything else that comes to mind?
I don't think so, and I'll probably jump off this and go, "Oh, I really wish I'd mentioned this, 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 and this." But
That's
yeah,
all right, because we can bring up again another
we
sort
can
of
come
chat,
back. Yeah,
conversation. I love
absolutely.
it. Good.
Yeah, I'm just kind of really, I'm really enjoying the work with the mind and the body at the moment, and really recognizing, how powerful the two work together actually, and how so many of us are disconnected from one more than the other. It's a bit like you saying your left and right side, right? We've also got the top and bottom, and a lot of us are here, and we need to get back into here.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
So much for
yeah.
today. It's been lovely
Thank
seeing you.
you.
People can reach you through your website and connect with you. Thank you.